My name's David Cottis and I'm the editor and I co-wrote the introduction for this book, A Dirty Broth, 3 early 20th century Welsh plays in English. This is part of a bigger project, it's part of 3 volumes where we're going to be chronicling the history of Welsh writing for the theatre in English through the 20th century. One thing that's worth saying is a book like this takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of work. So you need to do something that you're passionate about and that you care about, and that even when you've been doing it for a long time, you're still going to be interested in, because that's what sees you through the times when it gets difficult. Tip number 1, libraries are your friend. Libraries and archives have got a wealth of material. The British Library in London has got every book that's published in the UK and every play that's been performed in the UK up until 1968, and most plays that have been performed since then. So go to libraries. Tip number 2, don't try and reinvent the wheel. It may be the case that somebody has already researched part of the thing that you're interested in, and that's fine. If they've already done that, use what they've done and find your own areas next to it. One of the people I write about in this book is J.O. Francis, who wrote Change, the first play performed by a professional company in English in Wales, and Dr. Alice von Rothkirch, who was at that time at the University of Swansea, has already written about him and knows far more about him than I'm ever going to know. So I co-wrote the introduction with her and then added my own material about other people. Tip number 3, go to talks and introduce yourself to people. I went to a talk about the screenwriter Diana Morgan, who was born on Cathedral Road and worked at Ealing Studios, and there was a question asked from the audience by somebody who turned out to be Diana Morgan's granddaughter. And I went and introduced myself, which is not easy, I'm a shy person, but I think social boldness is a superpower, and it's a superpower that you can take on. And I discovered that she had lots of scrapbooks that had belonged to her grandmother, and that went into the 2nd volume. Tip number 4, use your own experience and your own expertise. One of the plays that's included in the 2nd volume is The Druid's Rest by Emlyn Williams, which I've directed. I'm also a theatre director, so I was able to write about it from the point of view of somebody who knows the play really well. So use what you yourself can bring to the project. And finally, tip number 5, decide what you're interested in and equally decide what you're not interested in. And this is tip number 5 because it's something you may well find yourself doing at the end of the process. So for instance, I made a decision not to write about Dylan Thomas because number 1, a lot of people have already done so and there's not really anything I have to add. And number 2, he's part of a different tradition. He's part of the tradition of Welsh poetry in English as opposed to the tradition of Welsh playwriting in English. So define your territory. One of the things that's very difficult for a writer, I think, sometimes is finding a publisher who is as passionate about the project as you are yourself. In this respect, I was very lucky because, of course, Parthian has got a history of rediscovering Welsh voices, as in the Library of Wales, and filling the gaps, I suppose, in the knowledge. So it's very much part of the whole Carnival of Voices idea, which is at the centre of what Parthian does.